Hey guys, thank you again for joining us for another exciting episode of Yomo. And if you're new, it stands for the Year of Magical Learning Podcast. So today we are on Reflection 339. Believe it or not, we're
Yeah,
getting to 365. So and this
getting
is a
there.
brand new book, and it's a two-part reflection. So today we do reflection part one of two. So we got.
Awesome. So yeah, this is a rare midday Yomel because we had some conflicts tonight. So we're in the middle of catching trains all day long for me, and figuring out how to stop and slow down is always tough, but it's always fun. So I'm excited to do it. This particular book, this is a new book. It's called The Nightingale. You ever heard of this book before?
No, I haven't.
It's a fiction book, but it's like based off of World War II, and it's about these two sisters. One's named Isabel, the other one's named is oh my gosh, what's her name? She's not the main character. Isabel's the main character, but her sister is it's a really cool name, and it's a name that I've always been like, man, that's just like a really neat name that I would like, even name a kid that someday. God, what's her name? I can't remember. I'll have to look it up now. Now it's bothering me. Maybe it'll come to me here as we're talking. But anyway, it's about these two sisters. Vianne. Her name's Vianne.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so Vianne's the older sister. Isabel's the younger sister. Isabel's a bit of a
Mm.
wild card. And she kind of pops off a little bit all the time, and is a bit of a rebel. And Vianne is married, has kids, and this is all when the war starts, and they're both in occupied France. And Vianne tries to, play her role at home, and stays home and protect her family and wait for her husband. And Isabel decides she wants to fight, I guess, if you will, and she ends up. The Nightingale is her code name. So she tries to help the resistance in France, and
Mm.
eventually starts to try to help soldiers that are downed airmen get back across enemy lines into across the Pyrenees Mountains into safe territory. And then she becomes like this scourge of the Nazis. That they're like, they all they know her as is the Nightingale, and they don't know that it's some little girl. Basically, she's like a really small, meek little girl, but she's like leading these people constantly through treacherous uh, missions over the peaks of the Pyrenees and through the mountains to escape the Nazis after they become like downed airmen and fighting. and
Mhm.
and yeah, they hate the Nightingale. They think it's like they think it's a dude. I mean,
It's like
obviously.
it's like some kind of a boogeyman of sort.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, right, yeah,
Nightingale's coming.
good. So
Damn
this
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 Nightingale.
yeah, exactly. No,
It's spoiled my plans.
that's exactly what it's about.
uh,
So the story is told from this old lady talking to her son, as she's like, entering the last years of her life. And he doesn't know anything about her past history, and they're in the U.S. at this point in time. And the old lady turned. I'm not going to ruin the story for you. You should just read the story if you like it. But so yeah, it goes back in time to France, and as they're living through the war. And anyway, so as you know, I don't read a lot of fiction books, right? And but what I do is one of my core values is don't do it alone, right?
mhm.
And A good friend of mine, we were out having dinner one night, and she was like telling me all about this book, The Nightingale. She's like, Chris, you got to read this book. She's like, I know you don't really like fiction, but she was like, I promise you will learn something in this book. I promise you. She's like, it's a great book. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I was like, I'll give it a shot. So I read the book, and she was right. It was a good
Mhm.
book. It was a very good book, and I enjoyed it, and I did learn something. So I actually wrote a two-part reflection on it. So like, there you go.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah.
This So the first thing that I learned from this book was the reflection title is one more step, right? So one of the as like, I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but for anybody that's new to this podcast or this journey or anything that have never met us before, one of the things that I Amelia and I love to do every single day is go on a run, listen to an audiobook while we're doing it, right? So we learn and move
Mhm.
our body every single day, and this is just like a staple of our life at this point in time. And then write our reflections. We you and I talk about stuff, and we do other things every single day, whatever. But like almost every single day, like it always involves learning through a new book, and moving our body in some way, shape, or form, and then writing. Like those are staples that, and then I guess you're kind of a staple too as well of the daily stuff as well now. But it's not always easy, right? Like most of the times I absolutely love it. Like we've done this stuff now all over the world, like and wherever we're traveling, wherever we are, it doesn't matter. Like it's get outside, go learn something, go start our day, and go write your thoughts about it, right?
Right.
And it's when those times I get to always make sure that I spend time with my daughter. Now there's some special days when I get to play tennis or I get to go play pickleball or whatever else. I mean, I can't do that every single day, all day long. Well, I guess I can't say I can't do that. Of course I could do that. I that is not what I do every single day, all day long. Those are special events, for me, I guess, in general. But yeah, these are the staples of living for two for us, right? One of the things though is, that most days it's pretty easy for us. Like this is just now a part of our life, right? Some days it's really hard, right? Some days I forget what this is all about in general, and in particular the day before when I wrote this reflection. I was about halfway through this book, and I had a late night tennis match the night before. It ended like really late. It was like, I feel like it was like 11 o'clock or something. It was a really tough match too. And like it's hard. I mean, like when you're playing competitive tennis, like it is not easy on your body. Like I don't understand how pro tennis players do it, to be honest with you, but it is not easy on your body. I hurt a lot after a hard match. I hurt. Like, I mean, it's not fun. But that's okay. Like you can recover. I recover pretty quick. My body's in pretty good shape still. But needless to say, it still hurts, right? So I get home late. And usually when you're in a competition too, like your heart's still racing, your adrenaline's still pumping. It's hard to go to sleep immediately if you get home really late from a competition. So I get home really late. My body's hurting. Like, I can't sleep, and like I didn't go to bed, early at all, right? So I wake up like normal, like at 6 o'clock. We do our writing, we do whatever, and then I'm like staring outside. I'm struggling to move. My back's hurting. I barely got enough sleep last night, and my body's even more sore now. From the next morning. It's February in Indianapolis, so it's it's a cold day, in the middle of the winter, and I'm like, getting ready to go run outside, and it's just one of those mornings where I was like, what am I fucking doing?
The stars are not aligning in some days.
Right. It was one of those mornings where I'm like, I started to set out on a run, turned on the Nightingale as we're running. And this is about, I don't know, probably 3/4 of the way through the book. And I mean, I feels like there's like 20-pound weights hanging from my legs. I mean, I could barely move. I was like, this hurts so bad. Every step hurt really bad. I was just like, this is not fun. This does not feel good. I'm like, well, let's just try to keep going and see what happens. This isn't atypical, I guess. It doesn't sound like this all the time, but there's certainly been many times in this journey when I've woken up and I'm like, fuck, I do not feel great right now. But like the point of all this is to spend time with my daughter. It's not to like try to go set personal bests or something like that every day. It's just try to do what I can do, and every single day is best I can. But some days I forget this stuff, right? So I'm jogging, I'm hurting. I hit this hill about a half mile in, and I remember hitting this hill, and I was like, what am I fucking doing right now? I was like, it's cold out. Like, I'm hurt. Like, I was like, this is not good. Like, I was like, why am I doing this? I was struggling this was on this particular day. I was like, this is a fucking bad idea. Like, this is just not smart, And I kept taking another step and another step, and I was honestly debating whether or not I should just turn around today, And I was like, this is just maybe one of those days where I like, just throw it in, right? And I've never done that before, but I was like, this might be the day that I just do this, right? And then I hit this point in the section of this book as I'm listening to it, and it's Isabel's first pass through the Pyrenees, and it's the first time she's doing something that she knows is really dangerous, and she's taking these 4 downed airmen. They were from the Canadian Royal Air Force. Across the Pyrenees, and she doesn't know where she's going. They don't know where they're going. They don't know that she doesn't know where she's going. But she's, she's just like, I'm going to try to get you guys across. And it's really tough sledding. It's really hard mountains, they're going, it's really, really rough terrain, really dangerous, and one of the Royal Air Force Canadian airmen, his name was Teddy. And he fell on the hike. And he was beat up bad. Like he was beat up from everything that he'd already been through, from being a prisoner of war, from down an airplane, all this other stuff. And he was just, they'd been stranded behind enemy lines for many weeks or whatever it was. And he fell down and he hurt himself, and he was like, I don't have any more to give. He was like, I'm done. I'm not moving on, And she was like, you can't do that. And she's like, we got to go. Like, and he was like, no, he's like, you guys keep going. I'm hurt. I can't move. I'm done. Just leave me here. Like, you guys keep going. And she was like, I can't let you do that. And he goes, and she finally, her initial encouraging is not working him. And finally she just stops and she goes, out of desperation, like, do you have somebody waiting at home for you, Teddy, by any chance, maybe a girl? And he was like, yeah, I do actually. Her name's Alice. And she goes, well, then get on your feet for Alice, Teddy, and get up, and he goes, oh, you're good, and he was like, all right, that's it. And he got up and he keeps moving, right? So as I'm running up this hill and I'm hurting, like, and I'm feeling like shit, and I'm questioning why I'm doing whatever I'm doing. Like, I honestly, I heard this, like, and it was as I was running up this hill. And I heard this, and this is the point of the book. And I honestly, I started crying, like, I mean, as I was running, and I didn't even really know why. I was probably just emotional, thinking about, the take one more step for Alice, right? And it just kept repeating in my head, like, just take one more step for Alice, take one. And then eventually I turned to the one more step for Amelia. It's like, this is why I'm doing this every single day. It's like, just take another freaking step, and it's fine. We'll get to where we're going. Like, it doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be whatever. Just take another step, right? That's why we're doing this, is to spend time together. And eventually we got up the hill. It's not like, if I was just running normally, that hill would probably take me, I don't know, let's say 3 minutes, right, to run up it or something like that. Eventually we got up this hill 3 minutes later, and I was like, okay, we're all right. Like, and I actually, for the first time, looked out and remember seeing, it was actually like a really nice day. It was like 55 degrees in the middle of February, and I was like, man, it's like a beautiful sunshiny day, clear outside. It's, I'm actually starting to sweat a little bit, which is rare on a winter run, and it reminded me of The Alchemist, the wisest man in the world, like, don't forget to look at the castle, kind of thing. And before I knew it, like, my mood was brightened up, and we were running, and then striding out eventually about probably halfway through the run, I was starting to actually run like normal, and or at least close to normal. And before I knew it, 4 miles later or so, whatever it was, we were back at home. We had listened to our book, and we were on to our next day. And it's just a great reminder for me of, like, what I'm doing this for, right? Like, and it also is a great reminder of, don't do it alone, right? Because we all need somebody else to help push us, take one more step. Sometimes you are not strong enough, right? Like, other people need to help you through this journey. Amelia helps me, you help me, my wife helps me, like, a lot of other people help me in this journey. And yeah, I'm grateful for that. So just take one more step for somebody else, whoever that is, right? So love to get your thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to piggyback on what we said about yesterday. When you start eating the frog and you don't like the taste, right? You don't like the taste, And to me, like, if you drink a bottle of poison, and if your body says no, then you gotta stop,
Right.
right? I told you I would never go into a war zone just because there is a war zone.
Right.
I will go if I need to defend somebody. I need to defend my country. I need to defend my family. I will go, and I will put my best effort into it, and I will do that because there's a reason for me to do it. And so this is the balance between, because the thing is, everything has a balance, meaning that when you are struggling to go up that hill, it's do you have the energy? Do you have the desire to do so? And at the moment that when you say, hey, I need to go back down, I need to quit doing this, right? This is when you don't have everything to, I guess, evaluate and counterbalance. But then when you reach deep down and understand what your real reason for doing this, then, I mean, imagine you doing this, the first half of your run, like the first half of your climb, it gets, harder and harder and harder and harder, right?
Oh yeah.
And then,
every step,
every step is getting harder.
Right.
But the moment that you realize that, hey, take one more step for Amelia, right? You remember that there is a reason why you do it. And then the very next step, it gets easier.
A little easier. Yeah, tiny bit.
But my question to you is, did the condition change at all?
No, not at all. I mean,
Exactly. Your environment is still cold, it's still uphill, and it's still struggling. But the reason gives you that value of desire. It's much more than the need to endure these stress and efforts. And so that's the reason why I think having the balance. I mean, hey, there is something worth it for me to continue down this path because whatever I'm doing is less than the outcome or the desire that I want. And I
right.
think I think that's go boils back to what we said yesterday. It's about balance because if I'm drinking the bottle of poison,
Right.
if I continue to drink it, right, that means that I'm going to damage myself even more and more and more and more, right? But the thing is, in that scenario, I never asked myself what was the reason for me to drink it,
Right.
right? Did I
If you had
drink
a
it?
reason,
If
you
and
probably
the thing
would.
is, the thing is, if I had no reason, and if I have no reason, so you have no reason, so I would have stopped because it's balance. Because hey, there's not something on the other side of the bottle. It will give me something I desire. Therefore, I want to stop because there's the swing of the pendulum is so small, right?
Right.
The width of the pendulum is so small. But if there's something desirable that I'm going to drink a little bit more than that because the desire is higher. But if the desire is so high, you go would rather drink everything because, like I told you, like if I had to drink it so that somebody else will live that I love, I would have drink it.
Right.
So that's the thing is everything boils down to the balance in who you are and what you got to do to
Why you
make
can't?
that
Yeah.
balance.
Why you're here? Purpose. It's a purpose. And purpose isn't is usually not yourself. I mean, honestly. I mean, like
Well,
I can't imagine.
purpose is it's you as a person, but because you are born with a certain human characteristics, those human characteristics is you don't live for yourself because as a human species, we belong to a social order. Belong
Right.
to a tribe. That means that we live for someone else. That is just our gene. Okay, this is the gene that we have.
Right.
You have to obey and express the gene that you are given. You cannot decide one day not to obey it. You have to obey it. And so in the end, it's the B word, right? The B word is the core of everything that we talk about, whether this book from yesterday or the book today is about the B word, right? And you say, well, the thing is, what does B word have to do with the taking one more step? Because taking one more step aligns with your core values. Therefore, there is a higher desire for you to
Right.
endure. This is where the endurance count. This is like they're doing the what was it? Overcoming the bonk for the
Yeah.
right
Right.
reason. This is
Right.
the right reason, right?
Right.
Enduring the thing for the right reason. Eating the frog for the right reason. They don't eat the
Right.
frog just because. And so everything that we talk about, whether hey that to quit, to not continue to drink the alcohol that's going to kill you, or to continue and eat the frog because you need something, or continue to
Yep.
climb the Mount Everest because you need that rare plant that will save somebody or save people you care about. And
Right.
so if there is nothing on the top of that mountain, right, and for me to endure the harsh temperature, the hard climb, and the risk of getting risk of death, but for not a good reason, not a counterbalance reason, then there's no one would ever do it, right? And that's what
Right.
I'm saying is, in human history, we have the strength to be adaptable, to do things we don't necessarily have the desire for. And that's also our weakness because you can do something, that doesn't mean you should. And so this is the danger of having the ability and the skills to do things that is not outside of your core, I guess.
Character is what it is.
Yeah, core character. Like
Yeah.
as a character, you have to play that character, and so to
Yep.
to maximize the the expression of who you are, because you can't say, hey, I'm this person, but I pretend to be someone else. This is like living in somebody else's shell.
Right.
That is
It's
very, very mentally
it's hypocrisy. We talked about this, like, that's the worst thing you could be is a hypocrite, right? Saying you want to be this and then not doing that, right? Like, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's anything worse than being a hypocrite. Maybe besides being bored. But yeah, that's a personal issue for me.
Right. And I think, yeah, I think like the being bored,
I'd rather be a hypocrite than be
has
bored. Is what I'm saying.
has a certain intensity, right? For somebody that is a curious person, boredom is the opposite of that. So if you have too much, you have I guess a center of balance in terms of the curiousness, right? There is a center of gravity on that. So you have too much of that, right? It counterbalances it, and
Right.
and having an overly exerted center, that means that your center isn't, do something for a day and then do nothing for half a day, right?
Right.
So your counterbalance, your center of balance in that spectrum is different than mine, right? Because your curiosity may be higher, therefore the center of balance is somewhere around 8, right? And so you can only do the 8 to 2. So similarly, I told you about my comfort zone of expressing myself. Let's say in a day, I can probably survive, 2, 3 meetings in an hour each.
Right.
But if you do, and I would rather have 80% of the other time to myself. So that's my sweet spot. So the sweet spot I'm saying is that's your center of balance for that particular, core values or whatever you call it. And so having that, so your core, your center of balance of that core values is actually like, 7 of 3 or 8 of 2 on the meeting side and on the be by yourself side, right?
Right. Right. Yep.
So for you to say, hey, how's your balance? Oh, I'm at an 8 on the talking to people and a 2 at self reflection. I'm perfect, right?
Right.
And you can't say, hey, Chris, that's imbalance. No, it's imbalance for someone else, but it's
Right.
balance for you. And so
Yep.
that's what I'm saying is everybody has their own, I guess, scale of what the balance is, and having to obey that law. I think you have to obey that the law of nature. The law of nature will make who you are. You have to obey it. If you don't obey it, you're just creating misery for yourself. And
Right.
to me, right, in
Why,
life,
why are you
and
suffering? Like, why suffer if you're
why
not,
are you suffer? Why are you
yeah.
suffering? But
There's got to be
you don't get anything from it that is desirable to you.
There's got to be a point to suffering, right? Like if you're gonna choose suffering in any way, shape, or form, there has to be a point to it. Otherwise, it's just self torture. Like there's no. I mean, well, we were talking about David Goggins yesterday, and I'm another hour and a half into his book today. I mean, it's only getting worse. Like, like this guy just chooses to suffer, and he assumes that that's the path, and I'm like, I still have not figured out why do you do this,
But the thing
and
is,
I don't think that he knows.
this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying, though. I mean, I don't really care if he does it or he likes it or not, because I respect that. If that's what you do and that's what you love, do that.
Right.
But what I had an issue with yesterday was that you mentioned this is like one of the most positively reviewed books of the whole entire
just in general reviewed, just in general reviewed, whether
not
positive
only
or negative. Yeah, just the total number.
Total number. I mean, people
Right.
are actually into it, and
Right.
I don't know if you say it's positive reviews or not, but I'm saying it's positive because it's on the top, it's on the recommended list. Because if it's negative, people won't recommend it. So I'm assuming it's positive review. I mean, people are eating it up like like there's no there's no more cake left.
Right.
I mean, so my issue with that is that more than likely than not, and I'm pretty sure that is most likely, or almost 100%, that his path cannot be traveled by someone else's because he is uniquely him. So you
Right.
can't go and write a book say, hey, I want you to be hard, do do hard, or whatever he
Stay
says.
hard. Stay
Stay
hard.
hard, right?
Yeah.
And that's where that is where it clashes with my belief as a company member, right? It clashes with that ability to say, hey, be like somebody. Because in company, our belief is everybody is unique. That means everybody has a certain unique characteristic and traits, and they have to live out those traits. So you can't take on somebody else's trait and say, hey, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna be like David Goggins, or I'm gonna be like Michael Jordan, I'm gonna be like Elon Musk, because you may like part of his aspects, but not all of the aspects.
No.
Because the thing is, it's an all or nothing. You can't say, hey, I like. Because the thing is, when you do the same thing, you're gonna end up having the same issues, the same the same misery, the same, but at the same time, for your reward, the reward of having that is to get certain thing, and that thing may not be high enough value for you. Therefore, you're gonna have this like basically it's a high price to pay, right?
Right.
What is the high price to pay? The high price to pay, anything is expensive to me is I'm paying more than what I'm getting. The value is not what is the amount, not the amount or the dollar amount or the whatever amount, right? It's not the amount, and it's something that's expensive. Is you paying more for the value you're getting, and value is subjective. To you,
Right.
a value is subjective, right? And so that means that to me, anything expensive is you are that anything expensive. That means it's not balanced, right? Because if I give you a something is worth $20, I give you $20, it's a balance, it's a happy transaction. But I give you $20 for something that was $10, right? You have an imbalance, and imbalance creates this mystery in yourself because your body is always in tune with the universe to be in balance, to be in equilibrium, right? So
Mhm.
that's why we always have like, hey, there are certain composers, and if they are composers, they have to be decomposers. If
Right.
somebody breathes in
Fragile versus
oxygen, right,
anti-fragile,
right,
Yeah.
it has to have that counterbalance because
Right.
it not a pendulum, like a pendulum is a perfect example. If you have a high, a height of a certain pendulum, right, it's gonna swing to the other side just as high. But
Right.
if you start high, low at a certain point, you can expect the other side to go higher, much higher than
Right.
the pendulum of where you initially started, because it violates the law of nature. It violates the law of physics, and so we are bound by these laws. We live in these laws. We cannot
Mhm.
change it. We can only obey it. You say, "Hey, I'm going to defy gravity," right? To defy gravity, you have to counter it, right? Counter by what? Because let's say a rocket, right? You have to shoot the rocket opposite of the gravity. In that sense, when you defy gravity in the balanced form, it's valid. But you defy gravity in an imbalanced form, it's not valid. You're gonna crash and burn. You can't just say, "Hey, I'm gonna defy gravity by stepping off of the building and be not dead," right? It's
Right.
not possible. You defy gravity, but you have to counterbalance. Hey, I'm gonna push the wind down that is equal and more or than the gravity for it will lift. It's a very simple physics, right? Those
Right.
physics applies to us as well in terms of how we act, how we live ourselves, and how we behave. For example, we're talking about the sun, right? The sun affects you, right? You can't say, "Hey, I want to have a sun come out for 18 hours a day, right? And I want to have the moon come out only 6 hours a day." If you think about in that world of imbalance, like the day and night, then you're not gonna like the day too much because it's gonna be very hot. It's hotter
Right.
than your center of balance. Therefore, it's going to create the imbalance, and you're gonna burn up or whatever. Just because, or the opposite way, if you go and have more nights, longer nights, right? Then you have this misery, you have this darkness within you. It affects
Mhm.
you, so you cannot say it doesn't affect me. the sun doesn't affect me, the moon doesn't affect me. Hell yeah, it affects you. It affects you. Like, let's say we go to a place where it's gloomy all the time because the cloud covers the sun. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good, right? But if you say, hey, I'm gonna go to a place where the sun's out all the time, right? So you have a gloomy, ominous, feeling when you're in the darkness all the time. But when you are in the sun all the time, then everything else you see is dead. All the grass is dead. You're looking at a desert. Right. So the balance is what we have to obey. And the thing is, I want to take back the topic of the balance, is because even though we're talking about taking one more step, the important thing is the hidden moral and value that you are able to sustain the endurance. It's because you found that core values that aligns with you. If not, you wouldn't have survived the ability to move on to the next step. Because I asked you in the beginning, when you start taking the step, it gets harder and harder and harder because it's gone. That's a trend. It's gone. So in order to counterbalance this, you have to understand what aligns with you, and that is what gets you up the hill, and then getting better and better and better and better. Just because you have a balance, the environment has not changed, but you're able to compensate for that.
That's probably the biggest thing that you mentioned in this conversation that got my mind racing a little bit is I guess reframing a situation, and it's funny how everything always blurs together, right? Because I just finished the reflection I was just writing about this morning from that Adam Grant's new book, Hidden Potential. One of the biggest ahas that I had from that, and one of the biggest ahas that you and I have already had this aha, is about it's about character, right? And he defines character in the book versus personality as, here, actually, I'll just hold up. He defines character as, where is it?
Your capacity to prioritize your values over your instincts.
Yep. So character is different than personality, and like personality is, it's like your elephant, right? That's your natural go-to instincts, right? Character is you and your rider working together, in my opinion. You and your elephant and your rider working together to say, hey, okay, great. This is how we normally go, and this is what our personality is telling us to do. Today, we're going to go this way, and we're going to go this way because of this reason. Do we all agree? And they're like, yes, we all agree. And then we all go in that direction, right? Like, that's like what character is to me. And character reframes an activity, right? That same thing that you were just talking about, running up a hill. Like, if it was just my personality, I would have been like, fuck this. Like, fuck this fucking hill. I hurt. I'm sore. It's cold out. Like, what am I doing? Like, fuck this. Like, but character and my rider and my elephant coming together to say, hey, this is about, don't do it alone. This is about purpose and living for two for your daughter. It's about enduring for the right stuff. This is about challenging yourself to take, one more. This is about learning something on this run today, with your daughter, and, and being able to share this with other people. And, all these things, right? Like, that's where character comes into play versus personality. And this is why, you and I have stumbled upon the same idea, that was how we connected, was the whether we didn't say it this way, this is what we kind of meant, was like, character matters, and we want to not only like be people, we not only want to do great things, we want to be character driven people, and we want to be around people that have character. And like, that was what the core values quest developed from, is to help people to figure out what their character is, right? And to figure out, okay, when I'm put into a situation where like it doesn't feel like everything is totally aligned right now, and what direction do I go? Well, I'm going this way, even though like it doesn't totally make a whole lot of sense with my personality right now, but my character says to go this way, right? So we take that step toward that way. So for me, this like what you said was, I think, really important, is character redefines the same. Nothing changes other than how you redefine.
It's been reframed. I mean, because you're adding another variable into the mix. That frame of view has changed, right? And that frame of view has changed. So the effort you put it into it, it's going to be different. And to me, this is the reminder to the listener is that in order for you to feel like something is getting easier and easier, is only because there's something that is reframing your view.
Yeah.
Because like I say, your climb on that hill has not changed. It's still going up, it's still cold, and you're
Still
still
sucks.
exhausted, right? And
Yeah.
you're even more exhausted than before. But the moment you reframe your view, right, based on another piece of variable or evidence, then that effort that you put in seems different. It seems easier and easier and easier. And to
Yep.
me, this is the hidden layers of the character. The hidden layers of core value that come into the mix. It changes your perspective, it changes your view, it changes your emotional exit, emotional output,
Yep.
right?
It's
Because
and
because
it's the founding principles of Clubany. Is like you can't be in Clubany unless you know what your character is. You know, that is it. Like that and then from there it's when you get forced to make a decision, lean on your character. But like we all need to know what your character is, and we all need to know what you need to know what your character is, and everybody around you, your meaningful relationships.
because
need
if
to
you don't
what
know your
is.
character, how do you navigate yourself? How do
You
you
don't.
put
You
yourself
turn
into
around.
balance?
Right. You don't.
You're gonna be just like a pinball that's being
You just do
smacked
whatever your
one,
elephant says.
it just bounce back and forth. Yeah,
Right.
and so that's important. That's important. You know, that's why you say is the fundamental thing you have to understand is yourself. If you don't understand yourself, I mean, nothing we say is gonna make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, like so I can't help but to think about David Goggins and this whole because this is talk about top of mind. This is what I'm listening to right now. It's his audiobook. You know how he does this? This is what I just learned this today. He calls it this thing called taking souls. And I go, what?
He's a reaper.
No. So when he gets pushed, he's like, and it's a competition and it's a challenge. He's like, I'm gonna take your soul, like, and I'm gonna do everything I can to just strip you of your, to let you know that I'm going to take your soul from you. That's how I'm going to fuel myself to move forward. And I'm like, what the fuck are you
people
teaching people?
eating this up?
I know. I'm like,
what the hell?
Like, I mean, true. I swear to God, I was running this morning while I was listening to this, and I was
want
like,
him to defend my country.
Well, I mean, he definitely can push himself to the limits it's for the wrong reasons though. Like, I mean, I don't like it's like I don't want to take people's souls. I don't want to stay hard, for staying hard's sake. No, I took one more step for my daughter because that matters to me, right? Like, and like that was it. Like, and if he told me that, hey, this is what matters to me, and this is why I'm saying, this is why I fought through Hell Week at SEALs or whatever, because this is what matters to me. Like, I would be like, okay, David, I'm listening, I'm intrigued. But like, no, you're saying you fought for one more day in Hell Week because you wanted to take a soul. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, like that doesn't make any sense. There's no purpose to that. Like, and this is where we try this whole entire journey. This is for us, for you and I. This is about balance, and it's about taking a step for a purpose, right? It's not about just taking a step because you want to take a soul. I guess that could be your purpose. I don't know, but I can't imagine that's how he wants to live his life. I just can't. Like, maybe it is, but maybe it's not. I don't know. But anyway, I know you got to jump because
I got to jump. So we can talk about David Goggins when that
we're gonna have a whole lot to talk about with David Goggins, for sure. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. The question we can leave for you all is, what do you think about when you need some encouragement to keep moving forward? Focus on your values, right? And let your character come out. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
All right, see you.